you ready to save the rec center, community center, ski resort, roller rink, dance club, anything else, skate park? Well, we're not doing that right now. In Joysticks, we are going to save the arcade. Because, all the other stuff was taken, and the people making this film got a bunch of licensed tie-ins from Midway, so let's save the arcade. Just like in every movie in this genre, the sex comedy, let's save something genre, we are following a bunch of kids. One of them is, I think, like a co-owner or a manager of the arcade, which is pretty impressive because I think he's like 18 or 19, and he just runs this arcade because his grandpa is somewhere else. We don't know where his mom or dad are. They're not important in this story. It's just him and his grandpa. But a movie like this, it just won't work unless we have bullies. Okay, those are okay bullies, but we really need the older, out of touch, very stuffy bullies. Somebody like Joe Don Baker or something like that. What were her lines? There we go. Okay, he is gonna get us through this. Especially since he is an asshole in this movie. He has no goddamn reason to want to shut this thing down aside from the fact that his daughter goes there and he is very upset about it. The movie starts off and I kind of think these guys are just gonna be dicks to Eugene the entire time. And they are, but it's not like they're picking on him because he's sort of the nerdy guy. They're picking on him because they're all friends. And that kind of works for this film. It's really one of the nicer things in this. None of the kids are jerks to each other just to be jerks. They're kind of ribbing each other. Like, it's a big group of friends and they all just hang out at the arcade. And they're trying to protect it from, people that want to shut it down. Which is essentially what's happening. Our real comic relief in this isn't just, the interactions between our heroes. It's from Joe Don Baker's, I'm guessing, nephews, who are just weird. They come up with a plan in order to stop the arcade, and they're just they're kind of like his cartoonish henchmen that are following him around. So the first big plan that these guys have, the nephews decide that they're going to dress up in disguise and infiltrate the arcade. One of them cross-dresses. I'm not really sure why they did that. I'm honestly not sure why they went in under disguise anyway. I think they're supposed to be hippies, but maybe, whatever. I'm very confused by what they're doing. So their first plan is to steal all the arcade cabinets because there's no security. They think they can pull this off. So they rent a truck and they load all the arcade cabinets onto this truck. But they were caught planning this, and they kind of get tricked, and all of the arcade cabinets get returned, and these guys kind of look like idiots because they bring an empty truck to Joe Don Baker's house and show it off to him. It's kind of a funny scene. So let me talk about the arcade really quick. It's really kind of a crazy place. Just all kinds of weird shit is going on. It kind of feels like there was just a bunch of weirdness happening here, and nobody really knows what's happening. Just, there's all different types of people in here, and they all seem to just need to play the games, or at least some of them do. Others seem pretty normal, but it's very strange when it comes up with some of the more colorful characters that stand out. I guess that's a nice way I can put this. So we have a few people that we're really following, and for the most part, it's Jeff, the guy that kind of owns and runs the arcade,
and then there's Eugene, the nerdy guy, and then there's this dude, Dorfus. He is kind of like the idiot savant. He's a fat, disgusting dude who is really, really good at video games. And he just kind of works at the arcade, but he's not really... I don't really know exactly what he does. It's just kind of a strange place where, like, any weird stuff happens. Like here, where a hot dog gets caught in a girl's cleavage. I mean, if I had a nickel for every time that I got a hot dog stuck in between a girl's breasts, I'd probably have about 15 cents. I don't really need to elaborate on that at all. It's just one of the weird things that happens in this arcade that, it seems like a really fun place and kind of that arcade that your parents probably worried about back in the 80s.
There's one person I feel really bad for in this movie, and that's Joe Don Baker's daughter, Patsy. Granted, she has, like, a really annoying voice. I don't understand why she's doing it. She's being kind of that bubbly, airhead, valley girl type person. And just kind of the way she talks is a little grating on me, and I'm kind of glad that they don't give her a lot to say, but at the same time, it's kind of like, God, your dad's an asshole.
They're probably not home.
And she's kind of the catalyst for this whole thing, why Joe Don Baker doesn't like the arcade and why he doesn't like Jeff, the guy that runs it. It's weird because, like, they're not really doing anything, and I think he just wants to really control his daughter's life, and that's why he's upset, because she goes to the arcade and has fun, but he doesn't like fun, apparently, or just hates the arcade and hates everyone there. It gets creepier when you get to one scene that I didn't think too much of it at the time. It's where Eugene and Dorfus break into Joe Don Baker's house, and his wife is, like, drugged up on the bed. You never see her in anything other than her pajamas. She is only ever asleep in her bed or, like, trying to sexually assault one of the boys in the movie. And I really got the feeling that Joe Don Baker just keeps his wife drugged up in their bed the whole time, because she never really interacts with anybody except for, like, Eugene and Dorfus. And yeah, it's kind of strange in many ways. And then at the end of the movie, Eugene ends up hooking up with her, and she's like this strange dominatrix chick. That just kind of comes out of left field, and I feel like there are a few scenes missing. But yeah, I feel really bad for Patsy at the end of this, because you think she's gonna hook up with Jeff at the end, but at the end, they kind of shoehorn Jeff's original girlfriend back into the movie. It's very weird.
So there's one really cool way that they kind of settle their disputes at the arcade. And it looks amazing, but once you really kind of think about it, you're like, yeah, they're not really doing any of the things that they kind of claim that they're doing. So in order to settle disputes there, they have this place called the Arena. And it's really just a section of the arcade where you see, like, this huge drop-down thing comes down, and they've got these two massive joysticks that kind of look like it's just a bowling ball on top of just a stick, essentially. These are supposed to be controlling, like, the two arcades that these sticks are, in theory, attached to. They're not connected to anything. Like, they're just moving them around and pressing the buttons to make it look like they're playing. But it looks amazing. The first game they play is Satan's Hallow, and this is kind of what establishes the whole thing. And then at the very end, they play Super Pac-Man, and it's still pretty cool to look at, even though, yeah, they're not actually doing anything with it. I could see somebody coming up with like a giant arcade like this and it being just like really, really awesome. It really looks like they go into some sort of like an esports arena or something like that. And it's not that, but it kind of looks like it could be something along those lines. And this does kind of get into why our main character, Jeff, has so many issues. As you saw with all the weird little clips in there. He basically... Yeah, I'll get into that in a little bit. But that kind of leads into Joe Don Baker's like third attempt to shut down the arcade. The first attempt was steal all the arcade machines. The second attempt was him going to like the town council and trying to get them to shut the arcade down. Neither of those really work. The first one, like I said, was done by his stupid nephews. The second one he tries to do, and he just totally messes up in every way. Like, our heroes just kind of have his number throughout this entire thing. He tries to be like the professional guy, but his anger just sort of gets the better of him, and he screws everything up. He also forms this weird alliance with our punk rocker dude. His name is King Vidiot. I don't know why, but he forms like this sort of, alliance with Joe Don Baker because he's just kind of weird and he can be manipulated by the guy. That's pretty much the only reason why this works out. So they go to the town council. The mayor says, no, we're not going to shut the place down because they haven't broken any law. And they decide, you know what, we'll, just like we did with Satan's Hollow, we're going to play a game, and that's going to the winner's going to decide what's going on. And during that whole thing, Dorfus gets kidnapped, and then we end up finding out what Jeff's problems were. And that's, he lost his virginity to his girlfriend 6 months before the movie. And right after he does that, his girlfriend's dad immediately shows up, smacks the shit out of his girlfriend, and then they move away forever. And that's why Jeff is like sick of the arcades. Like every time he plays them, he gets just violently ill. And at the end, he kind of overcomes that. In all honesty, Eugene's kind of an idiot here, but Dorfus comes back just in the nick of time. Like Jeff's on his last man, and like they try to give the controls over to Dorfus so he can play it, but Eugene's like, no, Jeff needs to work this out on his own, which I think was stupid. But of course it works out because it's a movie and everything, and they end up winning. And then Jeff's girlfriend comes back at the very end of this. I don't know. The ending of this movie is just very strange to me. I don't really get what's going on.
So after they win the little video game competition in Super Pac-Man, that's when the movie kind of takes a turn, and that's when I really feel bad for Patsy. And it's because, you think, okay, they've saved the arcade and everything, Jeff's going to get together with Patsy, we're going to get a happy-ish ending and not really learn anything about what happens to their life after this, and that's fine. But that's not what happens, because during the montage and everything, when his girlfriend, who's kind of the catalyst for why he has, sickness when he plays video games, she gets shoehorned back into the movie again, and it's like, okay, now your girlfriend's back. Still doesn't have any lines, by the way. And and all of a sudden, Jeff and her are just a couple again, and Patsy's all on her own. And you kind of think, okay, well, maybe she's going to hook up with Eugene, that would be fine. But no, Eugene hooks up with Patsy's mom. Again, this very weird movie, but why not? And then you end up with the other thought that I had, well, maybe she hooks up with Dorfus, but that just, that probably happens in the sequel that we're never going to get. So anyway, guys, that's going to wrap it up. Let me know what you think in the comments below, and have a great night, everybody.